Okay, it's Peter Devine back again. I hope this video will be of somewhat better quality than the previous one, but the topic is somewhat similar. Um, Before, I wanted to kind of underscore the use of a background uh, that different telecasters use, since now they are frequently broadcasting from their homes. A lot of them, in order to lend some gravitas to their lives, feature uh, either a library in the background or some art. I'm sure they think a little bit about what people are seeing. So I've chosen to show some rows of books in the background. Um, so I guess I have similar thoughts to those who do the same. Now, what I've been trying to do is to feature some aspects of this collection of books. Uh, this doesn't represent my entire library, but it represents some of the more choice books that I like to interact with for various reasons. Um, and I've chosen a book here because today I want to feature something about not really who writes the book necessarily, but who owns the book. Oftentimes people put their signatures in a book after they purchase it. Um, Today's book I'm going to feature is called The Art of Painting by Albert C. Barnes. Um, Albert C. Barnes was I guess you could call him a chemist, but he was able to, he made some kind of potion that helped to either prevent or treat a disease that was common, that afflicted the eyes of infants. And through this, he made a fortune. And interestingly enough, he became an art collector, and he had an old high school chum whose name was Glackens. I'm sorry, his first name, I think it's William Glackens, that's right. William Glackens was a famous American artist. And so Alfred C. Barnes, after he came into his fortune, he tried to gain the assistance of his old high school chum and begin an art collection. So William Glackens went around Europe collecting various Impressionist works for Mr. Barnes, who eventually established an institute and also a kind of educational museum associated with the institute. In 1925, he published probably his best known work called The Art of Painting, or The Art in Painting, I'm sorry. And so this was a very important work of his. The date is 1925, and interestingly enough, it is inscribed here, and you'll be able to see this. The inscription is, it says, Francis Henry Taylor, Paris, 1925, September, Chez Paul Guillaume, or Guillaume. I'm probably butchering the last French name, but Paul Guillaume was a very important art collector, and he was on the board of Barnes's educational institute, the name of which escapes me. But what is interesting about this book is that it sort of focused me on this gentleman, Francis Henry Taylor. And Francis Henry Taylor later on became the director of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, from 1940 to 1955. And so once I found this book, it sort of propelled me to find out more about Mr. Taylor, and I found out that he was an author. He wrote this fairly well-known and popular book about art, a history of art, called 50 Centuries of Art. You can find this in a lot of used bookstores. It's fairly popular, and it was a very nice work. I've read through some of it. Another, perhaps even more interesting book he wrote was this book. It's called, see if you can see this. It's called The Taste of Angels, and it's really a history of art collecting. Here we have the nice frontispiece. So, The Taste of Angels, this is a man who got around, who had time to write books, who was fairly well known in his time. So after I picked up these other two books by Francis Henry Taylor and learned a little bit about his life, many years later, say about a couple of decades later, I'm having a conversation with my brother, and basically my brother sometimes passes different heirlooms that are in our families, but maybe he has no room for, or he wants to just let me have them out of the kindness of his heart. And interestingly enough, among these family heirlooms was a copy of The Taste of Angels. Well, who would have known that? There it is. Now, this copy looks a little bit more beat up, I'll have to admit, the one that my brother gave me. But what is interesting is that it has an inscription in it. Here it says, "To Louis Levy, the guy who knows all the things I can't tell. With best regards, Francis Henry Taylor." And here we have the inscription, which I'm kind of showing to you. Now, what's interesting, let's see if we can see what some of these gentlemen look like. I'm going to, I can't do this, so let's see. Doesn't look like I can, but I'll try. Let me just, can I do that? Okay. Here's Paul Gillaume. He was painted by an important person. This is done by Amedeo Modigliani. Let's see who else I have here. Alfred C. Barnes, who founded the Barnes Foundation. Okay. Francis Henry Taylor, the subject of this video. And there is an interesting person, Joseph Dubin. Now, why would I mention Joseph Dubin? Well, as it turns out, Louis Levy, to whom the Henry Francis Taylor book was inscribed, was Joseph Dubin's lawyer, Joseph Dubin's attorney. And Joseph Dubin, of course, was the head of Dubin Brothers, which was a firm that was founded by my great-grandfather, so that makes Joseph my great-uncle. So it's kind of interesting how I started out collecting this one book inscribed by Francis Henry Taylor. And I picked that book up, by the way, for $25. It's still in pencil there. And how, by collecting different books by Francis Henry Taylor, eventually I happened to be gifted with a book that is inscribed by my great uncle's attorney, Louis Levy. So books sort of have connections, and collections have a way of growing like that. There's an interconnectedness with various books. And so when you see a bookshelf full of books, you're seeing some amazing connections that might not be immediately evident. So thank you for listening today, and I hope to see you again.